So far you've learned some new scales and licks. Here's where we talk about making them and you sound better. Getting the sound you like out of the guitar comes from having technique. Let's start with bending. Having good, accurate bends is essential for any lead guitarist. Let's review the things to remember when bending. Number one, always bend with as many fingers as possible. So if you're bending with your fourth finger, make sure that the other three are right behind it. If you're bending with your third finger, the other two behind it. Second finger, use both those two. First finger is up to its own. Okay, number two, when bending upward, wrap your thumb over the top of the neck. What this does is gives you more leverage on the bends there. Sometimes when you're bending downward, you won't be able to do that. And number three, don't let other strings get caught under the bent note. What can happen sometimes is you're bending, say, on the second string, and the other strings will get caught under. Try to get under the notes if possible, so they're deadened. As far as getting your bends in tune, use your ear to match the bend to a fretted note. For example, I'm going to bend this G to an A and check it against this A. That actually works well as a lick, too. Make sure you try this idea all over the guitar, like third string. Up high. Another important technique is vibrato. Just as the word says, vibrato is vibrating the notes you play. You can look at it as a series of tiny bends that makes the notes you play have more feeling and emotion. Make it sound a lot like a singer's voice. There's many ways of getting vibrato, but most rock players use wrist vibrato. That's where the wrist of your neck hand moves or wiggles while your fingers basically remain locked in place. When done right, the strings will move very smoothly up and down. Make sure your thumb is over the top of the neck. Gives you more leverage, just like a bend. If you find yourself moving your fingers instead of your wrist, make sure that you lock your fingers still and go back to the wrist. Do it at any tempo you need. The reason for this is that the wrist gives you a more consistent and stronger vibrato than your fingers will. As far as how fast and how big to shake the strings, leave that up to your ear and taste. For now, just concentrate on getting the motion right. Practice on all the strings. Now on the top two strings, you'd be better off bending upward with your vibrato, or the string just might go off the neck. So you bend upward. After you get the knack of that, try bending and applying vibrato to the bent note. The trick to this is to not lose the pitch of the note. You don't want it to go downward. One easy way to do that is to use your eye to gauge after you get the bend to the right place. Memorize where it is and always try to get back to the same place. Picking technique. As you learn more and more licks, you'll find that some are more demanding than others. What you then need to do is work on some exercises that get your two hands working together better. I'm going to show you some of my favorite exercises that really help build my technique. This first one here is a repetitive picking exercise that's designed to help build your accuracy with picking. Make sure you play each note separately and don't go too fast or it'll get sloppy, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. I'm going to show you it right now. We're just going to repeat those four notes over and over. You really want to concentrate on alternate picking. Down, up, down, up. Try to increase speed with those four notes first. Now the next thing we're going to repeat are these notes here. We're going to repeat those a few times. Then we'll go back to the first 4 notes. Let's try it with a metronome. 2, 3, and. Now, after you practice a while at slow speeds, you can try to play faster, but never play too fast to where it gets sloppy and your arms get tense. I'm using my wrist the whole time to get the notes. It takes a long time to get up to that speed, so just practice slow, take your time. Here's another repetitive exercise. This time we focus on bending and pull-offs. There's an interesting twist to how this one's played. It's that you hammer a string that hasn't been picked yet. The reason for this is because when you start to play it faster, it's a lot easier that way. As always, start extremely slow and build speed later. I'll show you it. Let's do it with the metronome. 2, 3, and. Here's a sequence exercise. As with all the other exercises I've shown you so far, they work well as solo ideas too. The object of this exercise is to learn how to travel through the strings smoothly as well as picking. I'll show it to you. With the metronome. 2, 3, 4. And a little faster. 3, 4.